Hi, I'm John from Tools in Action. Today I want to take a look at the 2017 X-Carve model. I know it's 2018 right now, but I just got my hands on this and had some time to spend working with it, and I wanted to show you all the improvements from the original model that went out, I believe, in 2015 or 14, and what they've done to improve that model. Now, I had the original model, and it was a little larger than this. I'd used it for years. I've probably made 40 or 50 projects on it. Love the unit, use it a lot. It went a little quirky on me in the end, and I needed to replace a chip on it. But I got this unit, and I've got to tell you, this is a big step up from the other one. It's not just a little bit here and there. They've done a lot to this unit, and I want to talk about it. We're going to go over the improvements, some of the changes they made. I'm going to show you some projects I've done with it, give you some tips and suggestions, and kind of give you an overall of this support network they have as well. So first, let's talk about the changes. This unit, the biggest change is the X controller right here. You're still going to have to assemble this entire unit. The first unit I got took me probably about 10 hours to put together. There's lots of parts and pieces. The instructions are pretty good, so don't let that scare you. The part that they made a lot better is there's no soldering or crimping on this one. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal on the first one, but during the soldering stages, I had actually messed up one of the connections. I had to get some more parts in, had to have somebody help me with it because I wasn't real good with soldering small electricals components. So they took care of that with this new X controller. In the back here, you have to assemble this whole thing and the power supply and the X controller, but in the back, there's little terminal blocks that you wire all your connections to. And then once those are wired in, they just snap into the place in the back of this box to where they're supposed to be. And it's really clearly labeled. Like, these are the wires for the X-axis, here's the Y-axis, here's the Z-axis. So you know where everything plugs in at. That's a lot nicer than what the old unit was. Also, with this controller unit has more power coming to it, coming out of it than the other one does too. Just a great upgrade. There's an emergency stop button on this unit. That's an improvement too. Something that I would have used in the past with the old unit. But if I had a mistake going, and you can hear a mistake when something goes wrong and this gets out of whack, it starts hogging off a lot more than it should. You can hear it screaming. You'd have to run down here and you'd have to stop it with your mouse on the computer screen. Well, I use a wireless mouse and keyboard with my computer on the other side of the wall. So I'd have to go find my mouse, come over here and stop it. This right here is an emergency stop button. Slam it down, it stops it. Also, there's some onboard controls on this too. Again, you can pause this when it's working. It'll stop right where it's at. It'll allow you to do something. Then you're going to turn it back on. Before, you had to do that on the computer screen. So it's nice to have the functionality in the front of this unit and right in the open. Now, this X controller is also mounted on a sideboard, which is part of the unit now. The last unit, it seems like placement of the power source and the controller were an afterthought. So I actually had to drill a hole in the top of this and slide that underneath. So I always had wires going from the X-Carve down through the cabinet in there. Worked okay, but I swear I was always afraid that the wires are going to break off or I was going to screw something up when I was down underneath there. So having it all boxed in, contained, plug-ins, huge improvement. All right, now let's talk about the actual unit, the improvements here. One of the big improvements they had was this drag chain. The drag chain on the original unit is smaller, lighter weight, and this one also opens up. You can pop each one of these open and add more wires to it if you have to, or pull them out, make whatever changes you want. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but right here with the DeWalt 611, it's got its own power cord. This one you're able to snap in here and run it through and keep the wires from catching anything. I could not fit that in the other drag chain, so it had to hang out back. I was afraid I was going to snag it on something. Also, this drag chain stays nice and level here. The old one would ride on the actual wasteboard because they put an extra bar in the back of this to support it. That way it runs along the bar and you don't have that getting hung up either. The gantry, this bar where your router runs on, is now a solid bar. The other one actually had two thinner bars like these running across. So this is going to stiffen up this area and keep it from bending and twisting at all. Didn't see a big problem with it in the past, but now it's completely eliminated. A part that was a big issue for a lot of people are these belts. There's belts right here on both of these bars and right here. And this is what runs the stepper motors and allows it to run. These little pulleys run on this belt. There's grooves right here. And if these aren't tensioned and they don't have some tension where you can actually pluck them, then they will slip, and instead of moving in the progression it should, it may slip along the way, and now your coordinates aren't the same. And now you may end up with something that looks pretty good for a while, and now the whole thing shifts. So you want to make sure these stay nice and tight. With the old system, there was a metal clip here that didn't actually lock this belt into place, and people had to make fixes either with electrical tape, or I had used a shrink wrap that I would put across this, hit it with a heater, and it would shrink down and tighten it on in place. They actually have some metal clips here that hold it, lock it in real well. So that's great that they fixed that issue. Now, let's talk about fixing issues. X-Carve, Inventables, they have a forum where the makers go out there, they get to show their what they've made. They also get to talk about issues that they're seeing, whether or not they get some help. And that's a great community, especially if you're getting to learn this. They're always there, willing to help. Most people have seen everything. Let me give you a for instance, with the old unit, I've been running it for 2-3 years straight, and I had my first real issue happen the other day where I was trying to home this in manually. I was telling the bit to go down, it would go down, then all of a sudden it would be coming up. Then it might go down, and it just randomly changed directions. I didn't know what was going on. Went on the forum, asked some questions, got a whole bunch of answers, and then I used the helpline. Gave them a call. This was at nighttime. I said, there's no way they're going to be in the office right now, and there's no way. I called, I got somebody right away. Blew my mind. Started talking to him about it. And the gentleman says, go inside there, take your X wires and your Y and your Z wires, switch them. So I did. Okay, so the wires basically work a different stepper motor. Went in and tried it, and all of a sudden the X-axis started doing the same thing the Z did. So we were able to troubleshoot it right down to the control board in there. It's not an expensive fix, but I was dead in the water. I had no idea. So they are extremely good at customer support and helping you out when you need it, whenever you need it. So kudos and hats off to them. That was great. Like I said, there's no soldering and no crimping. So even with the stepper motors, there are some plug-ins that you just push the wires in and then you can snap them into place. Also, the original unit came with a 24-volt spindle unit you could get, or you had to get a different mount here for the 611 from DeWalt. They've gotten rid of the spindle unit and just went to, you can either get the DeWalt router with the holder, or just the regular holder if you've got a DeWalt router, or you can get the holder that is made for the Bosch Colt. They don't sell the Colt with this kit as well. They've stuck with the 611, which I think is a fantastic router for this unit. Couldn't be happier, and I will go with this every single time. I did burn out a set of brushes on my last unit because I let it run and run and run, and I've got just probably hundreds of hours on that thing. So they eventually wore out, replaced the brushes, I was ready to go again. Super easy to do, great. Now, some of the accessories that they have added to this unit, and I don't have them here, but there is a dust shoe that you can get for this. Huge. You gotta have a dust shoe with this unit. If you don't, you are gonna have dust everywhere. And I started off with that way, and I'd sit here with a little vac every once in a while and suck it up. It's just not the way to go. A dust shoe with dust collection right at the source is the way to go. I do have a dust chute with mine, I just don't have the new one that they have. So I have my hose up here, it comes down, it rides right along, and excuse me, does a great job. The hold downs that they have, much better than what they sent with the original unit. The original unit, not that it's bad, but it was made out of wood, and my biggest issue was the hex bolt that they had for it was one size. If you put a really thick piece of wood on there, like sometimes I was an 1.5 inches, 2 inches of wood, it couldn't hold it down. So I had to resort to two-sided tape. With these new hold downs, nothing special. It's a pretty basic hold down, but they give you different length screws to hold it into place. And I don't have them all here. Plus there's a riser block so it can keep everything even. But it also takes the 4mm hex, and so you can really spin these off quickly. I always hated hand twisting these here and taking forever. I just get impatient when I'm doing these things. I want everything to be easy and smooth, and they did improve that. Now these changes may sound small to you, and if you look at them as individuals, I'd agree. But collectively, if you put them all together, X-Carve has taken a huge step forward to improving the issues that other users had found along the way. So they've improved it, they've listened, and I assume they're going to continue doing the same thing forward. The reason why I assume that is, if you see back here on the screen, this is their app, free app for the users to use. It's called Easel. This is what controls and tells the controller what to do. And it's a very simple unit. Again, there's a forum, so if you have any questions or issues with it, they can step you through, tell you, hey, try this, do that. But it really is intuitive and you can figure it out. Now, you can either start from scratch and create your project, or what I like to do is I usually go into Photoshop, create my project, and then export it to another website that converts my JPEGs into an SVG. And that's what these work on, G-code or SVG. So I can turn it into an SVG file and let it run. Now, in this, they have an app, another app within it that has, well actually there are a bunch of apps that have been developed over time. And what I mean is, let's say you want to do an inlay. It's not just cutting it out and inserting a new one. There has to be some tolerances put in there and whatnot. So that is, to me, the most useful special one that I can use. If you see here, I made this box for my boy and holds a knife for him, a knife that I made. So out of the same color wood as the knife, I input the word sun. I did that with the inlay app on the X-Carve. Worked out great. So I did a whole bunch of Detroit Tiger cutting boards with an inlay. And so you can get some really cool results with that inlay app. There's a box app. There's all kinds of things in those apps that you can do that would probably take you forever to figure out on your own. Now, some of the other projects I've done, and once you've done a project, it gives you the option to share it, and it will be logged out there. So-and-so made this. I do most of my work with wood, but I've done some, and this right here is acrylic. This is plexiglass. So I went ahead and made a plexiglass black background and cut out each of the letters for rigid. So this goes on my table saw overarm dust collection system that I made. So I made it for my table saw. I wanted it to match the table saw, so I made a little sign for it. Now, some of the things I like doing a lot is, it's a wall hanger. It's just something people can put up on their wall, but I've been making different plaques and filling it with colored epoxy. And once you finish these off, people love these. I've got people asking me for these all the time. Right now, on this particular unit, last night, I carved the Chicago Cubs. Let's see if we get this in a little closer. Chicago Cubs plaque. And I'm not finished with it yet. I've got some things to do with the rest of the shop and then fill this in with color epoxy. There's going to be a video on this build. So shortly I will have that one out as soon as I get this finished. Like I said, projects, are basically limited to your imagination with this device. I really enjoy the 2017 improvements, and I look forward to seeing if they continue improving upon this. Right now, I don't see a lot that they can fix and make better, but again, little changes make a big difference. So if you're looking for a homeowner's unit for for a CNC type machine, go ahead and take a look at the X-Carve. There's a few other ones out there, but I've been very happy with this unit, and hopefully if you decide to pick one up, you can share some of your projects with us over at our forum, the Tools in Action forum. So until next time, I'm John from Tools in Action. Talk to you later.
Remember, for more exciting tool action, go to toolsinaction.com.